to the opportunity to provide public comments. The department is accepting comments on the notice of intent for the Speedway Energy Facility through January 23rd. And we'll talk more about the comment process after the applicant's presentation. You may have heard that this meeting is being recorded. It's being recorded, and the webinar and slides from tonight's meeting will be posted to the Speedway Energy project page, and I'll provide and show that link later in the presentation should you want to review the material later. And with that, I'll hand it over to the applicants. Next slide, please.
Evening, everyone. You guys can all hear me all right? My name is Vince Esposito. I'm the Senior Project Manager here on the Speedway Energy Facility. I'm joined by John Soininen and Burke Gorsoy, respectively the VP of Solar Development and VP of Wind and BESS Development. And we're here to... Better? Thank you. And we're here today to talk about the Speedway project. Oh. Good. Just a brief background about Brookfield, which is the company that is backing the Speedway project. Brookfield's a nationwide owner and operator of renewable energy projects in the United States. With our portfolio companies, we have about 18 gigawatts of operating projects, which include wind, solar, hydro, and battery storage. Some of our assets in the hydro fleet are over 100 years old. And so we have a long history of operating these projects throughout the country. And again, with those portfolio companies have upwards of 100 gigawatts of projects in development. Besides a few states there in the north, we have projects in about 45 states throughout the country. And the next slide will show our operation and development in the Pacific Northwest. Between Oregon and Washington, we have about 3,500 megawatts, both in operation and development, with the most recent project being the Goose Prairie project up in Yakima County, Washington, which is 80 megawatts of solar, as well as the Shepherd's Flat repowered wind farm in Arlington, Oregon, which is about almost 900 megawatts of wind, along with 3 other projects that we're developing in Oregon, including the Speedway Energy project that we're talking about tonight. Next slide, please. Speedway project, as you all know, is located in Sherman County. We're both northeast and southwest of this town, Grass Valley, and we're on about 25,000 acres of privately owned land. Those 25,000 acres make up our project area right now and are everything that'll be analyzed within the notice of intent and the application for site certificate. But as of this moment, we do not have 100% fully defined layout. So as we work through that engineering design, we know we have a few fixed items. That's a 1,400 megawatt injection capacity, meaning 1,400 megawatts that we can put into BPA's system. That will be kind of the upper bound of the solar generation that we build. And the NOI currently contemplates 100 wind turbines, up to 100 wind turbines. Again, that number is not determined yet. We are working through the layout and the engineering design, so that number could come down. Also contemplated is battery storage, which is somewhere in the 500 megawatt range with a 4-hour duration. So kind of a upper bounds of what the project is submitting to Odo and could be built, but will be further fleshed out as we get through some of the engineering. Our interconnection will go into the existing 500 kilovolt Ash Marion line that BPA already has that runs directly through our project area and just outside of town here. We're working with BPA and have pretty substantial advanced engineering procurement agreements with BPA to build a brand new switch yard. So we'll be connecting to the system that BPA already has. And we're pretty advanced in their interconnection process. So we're not tied up in what they call the transition cluster study, which a few other projects within the region are. And so we have pretty substantial conversations with them weekly and monthly cadences, and have a pretty firm grasp on their process, understanding that they can only move so fast, but we'll continue to push them as much as we can. The schedule below kind of shows where we are now and where we expect to go. And then submitted the NOI down there back in October, here today as part of that process. The next phase being the application for site certificate, which we anticipate submitting a preliminary version of sometime in the second quarter of this year. And if all goes according to plan, we'll be starting construction sometime in the middle of 2027. We're anticipating a commercial operation date at the end of 2029. And so about 2.5 years of construction in this schedule. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview of where Speedway sits relative to kind of a zoomed out version of the county and neighboring counties. As I said, that's about 25,000 acres land holding, Grass Valley being kind of in the middle of that area. I think the next slide would be helpful, please. Just a little more zoomed in on the area. These green dotted lines represent BPA's existing transmission line. And so a bit hard to see here, but in kind of the upper right-hand side is a pink square where we anticipate BPA building that line, or that switch yard. BPA has been to site, has visited this area quite a few times, and are working through their engineering design with their owner's consultant. And so that process will go on in parallel with our design, application, and construction. The next slide is good. A little bit more about the proposed facility. As mentioned, this will be 1,400 megawatts of AC solar. We'll build about 1.3 times that, so somewhere in the 1,800 megawatt range of DC. And so a slight overbuild as we get to that interconnection size. Again, up to 100 wind turbines, but we're working through that number and locations as we get through the engineering design. And about 500 megawatts of proposed battery energy storage system, which will be located somewhere near that BPA switchyard. We'll also have a number of collector and transmission connecting lines that will go throughout the project to pick up each batch of solar and wind throughout the project area. There'll be 6 collector substations, which will all funnel that power back to the BPA switchyard. And then broken down a little bit further, we'll collect that power from the solar and wind arrays at a 34.5 kV. Most of that connection will go underground and then go to step-up transformer yards where that power will be converted from 34.5 to 230. And that 230 will act as our kind of inter-project private transmission as we get back to BPA switchyard. Interspersed throughout the project, we'll have access and service roads that'll connect individual service arrays or solar arrays and wind turbines. There will be an operations and maintenance building on site. And throughout the construction time, we'll have temporary construction areas and temporary perimeter fencing and gates, some which will remain to enclose those substations and battery areas. Next slide. Part of the process as we prepare for our application is extensive stakeholder engagement and agency outreach. Starting at the top with cultural, we've sent notices and worked with various consultants, both Tetra Tech and a company called Willamette Cultural Resource Associates, to reach out to tribes in the area and get their feedback and input on the project. Since doing that, we've engaged with the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs Reservation of Oregon. They've given direct feedback on the project and recommendations, and after following those recommendations, have engaged with one of their subsidiary companies called GeoVisions, and they'll be out. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sure. Apologize for that. Do you guys want me to start over from the top on this slide? Would that be helpful? No? Okay. So we've engaged with a company called GeoVisions, and they'll be doing travel surveys and ethnographic studies to identify culturally significant properties and areas for their use. Other agencies that we've engaged with include the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. We've met with them to discuss our survey work, and we'll be meeting with them again to review survey results and potential habitat mitigation. We've had conversations with Oregon Department of Transportation as we come to kind of working through some transportation planning, road use, power construction, and crossings of over the highway, and just general impact on the local roads as we go through the construction planning. And as I mentioned, BPA, having extensive meetings with them for planning and design and feedback on the interconnection switchyard. And then locally, meeting with folks from the county and the towns to understand their concerns as we work through the design of the project and our application. And that includes Soil and Water Conservation District, South and Morrow Sherman County fire departments, emergency services, the county judge, the assessor's office, planning office, and the roadmaster. So we believe this will be a collaborative effort through every county and state agency. And so we're working to explain our project, understand the concerns from the area, get feedback on our design, and incorporate that into the application. And then just touching on the surveys that we've completed over the last few years, won't read every single one of them, but I think the takeaway from here is that unlike some other projects, we've pretty much surveyed all 25,000 acres of our lease areas. And so we have extensive knowledge of plants, wildlife, wetlands, and ultimately this will inform us on where we'll place equipment and infrastructure and really where to steer away from in areas that we won't want to design and put equipment. So feel pretty confident that we know a lot about the area and should inform our application and be a pretty wholesome package as we go through the engineering design. And one thing that we've heard a lot from speaking to folks in the county and in the area is wildfire mitigation and impacts. We recognize this is a huge concern in the area, and I was actually out here this past summer when a few fires had popped up. Recognize it's a huge drain on the resources of the area, and that it's frankly a concern for everyone, both living here, farming here, and we want to do everything that we can to understand those concerns more. And so we're collaborating with the local fire departments, as I said, meeting with them on multiple occasions, and recognize this is going to be an ongoing process as we understand what the fire agencies need, what emergency response needs, and how we could be good neighbors for our project. And so we've been speaking on what we can do for designing the project, including fire breaks, on-site water storage, and work through education and training of the fire department so that if there is an event, you all understand how to treat it, how to engage with the equipment, how to engage with the facility, where to stay away from, what to do if something catches fire, and also how to prevent fires from starting in the first place. On top of working on that training, there'll be a pretty comprehensive emergency response plan, and that'll work through potential wildlife scenarios, and that'll be done ahead of construction commencement, which we recognize construction could be a potential fire risk as well. And just some examples I had mentioned earlier, Goose Prairie Solar Project. This is up in Yakima, Washington. And this is pretty indicative of what the solar project will look like. As I mentioned, 25,000 acres, I recognize is a pretty substantial number to read on paper. As I said, with the resource studies, we recognize we can't build in certain areas such as drainages, steep slopes. And so want to impress that this is indicative of what a array could look like, but this will not be over all 25,000 acres that we're leasing. And so we'll have individual broken up sections of the project, but wanted folks to see what a tracker solar plant that we're planning to build does look like. Just another example is this is the Shepherd's Flat wind farm. I believe it's pre-repower, so it could look a little different today, but indicative of what we could be building from a wind project perspective. And then an example of battery storage for one of our operating projects down in Texas. This one's about 120 megawatts. So modular as they scale up in size, we'll just see more units like this. So indicative of what it could look like if we choose to build that. And then contact information, which can be found, I believe, on the EFSC website. So no need to take a picture of this. I think this will be posted. And as I mentioned, I'm the lead project manager for this. So my information is here. I think phone number is also on the website. Feel free to call me or text me anytime. I'm in New York, so my time difference is a little different, but I will get back to you. I think that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Vince. So I'm now going to go into the siting process overview and where we are today. And the Oregon Department of Energy's siting division serves as staff to the Energy Facility Siting Council, which I'll refer to in my presentation as either council or EFSC. The council consists of up to 7 members serving in a volunteer capacity. Council members are appointed by the governor and approved by the Oregon Senate and represent diverse professional backgrounds from across the state, while ODO siting staff like myself make recommendations to EFSC. It's EFSC that is making the final decision. They're the final decision-making authority for energy facilities under their jurisdiction. The Oregon Department of Energy's siting division has one primary objective, and that's to review large-scale energy projects and compliance with applicable standards and rules. The siting process is a consolidated permit review process where other state or local permits needed for the siting of facilities may be incorporated into the state's permitting process, which removes the burden for an applicant to go through multiple separate permitting processes. Our permitting process requires the applicant identify whether it seeks a land use determination from EFSC or from the county. If they choose EFSC, it's incorporated into our consolidated state process. For the Speedway energy facility, the applicant has elected to go through EFSC and have EFSC make its land use determination. However, if this election changes, interested individuals would need to follow the local land use process for participation opportunities. In addition to a consolidated permitting process, our process requires that we request and rely upon local, state, and tribal governments to identify requirements, issues, and appropriate resolution to issues related to their subject matter expertise. Next slide. This slide illustrates the 7 major steps in the review of applications for a site certificate. I'll go into a little detail for each step, but we do have helpful handouts at the end of the room or the back of the room that provide more details, and there's more helpful information on our project page and our website. For the Speedway energy facility, which we're all here today, we're in the first step of the application process, the notice of intent phase, and that's highlighted here with that fuchsia box. A notice of intent is a document that states the applicant's intent to submit an application for a site certificate and includes general information about a project. It is posted to our website and is available in hard copy at our office in Salem or electronically. EFSC has rules that govern the notice of intent phase, including the requirement that the department issues a public notice for a comment period. The comment period for this notice of intent was initiated on December 16th and extends again through January 23rd. EFSC also has rules that require the department seek review and comment from state, local, and tribal governments on potential issues, impacts, and regulations applicable to the proposed facility or site. After the public comment period concludes and the department has completed its reviewing agency consultation, we're required to issue a project order, which is the second stage in our process. The project order is a document that will also be posted to our website and provided to the applicant, and it identifies the requirements and studies that must be included in an application for a site certificate. So after the project order, the applicant submits a preliminary application, and that's the third step, preliminary application in our process. The department reviews the preliminary application in consultation with reviewing agencies to determine whether the information provided is complete. Once completeness is determined, we'll conduct a public information meeting, much like this meeting. However, at the completeness public information meeting, there isn't a public comment period associated with that public meeting. Following that public meeting on the complete application, the department will issue its first order, the draft proposed order. And at that step, which is the fourth step in our phase, there will be a public comment period as well as a public hearing. After the draft proposed order public hearing, the council reviews the draft proposed order during a council meeting. Based on direction from council, the department issues a proposed order and a notice of a contested case. The proposed order is staff's revised recommendations based on EFSC and other comments received. For the contested case portion of our process, only those persons who raised a relevant issue in person at the public hearing or in writing before the comment deadline on the draft proposed order may participate in the contested case. The contested case process is run by an independent hearing officer, and following the contested case process step is the last step of the process, and that's the final order. At the final order step, EFSC reviews the hearing officer's recommended contested case order and issues a final order approving or denying the application for a site certificate. The final order's findings of facts and conclusions of law are based on the proposed order and the outcome of the contested case. If the council approves the application, EFSC also issues a site certificate. Next slide, please. Now that I've run through the entire application process, let's get back to the phase that we're in right now, the notice of intent phase. As I mentioned, the department is currently accepting public comments on the NOI with a deadline of January 23rd at 5 p.m. Pacific. If you're interested in submitting comments for the purpose of informing the evaluation of the site and the proposed facility, comments should be detailed and associated with risks or impacts for which the council has jurisdiction. Slide. If you're interested in submitting comments on the NOI, you can verbally comment tonight. You can provide your written comments on a comment sheet and provide them to Nancy. You can also mail written comments to the senior siting analyst, the lead senior siting analyst on this project, which is my colleague, Catherine Sloan. Her contact information is up here on the screen. And you can also email Kate Sloan with your comments. Or you can submit comments through the Oregon Department of Energy's online comment portal. And that link is shown here at the bottom of the screen. Next slide. Should you like to use the comment portal, you'll will follow the link shown on the screen. And from there, you'll find the project name and phase of this facility, proposed facility, which is Speedway Energy Facility NOI. And upon clicking on it, you'll follow prompts to submit your comments. You'll receive an email confirmation once your comments have been submitted. If you're interested in having your comments be considered or applied to the evaluation required of the applicant, it's important that you provide specific comments related to the proposed facility or site, and that you understand and identify how those comments are related to a requirement within the council's jurisdiction. The council has 13 primary standards that are applied to all energy facilities, and those standards are found in OAR Chapter 345, Division 22. If your comments are clear within the jurisdiction of council and requirement, the department would identify the issue or evaluation in the project order as something that the applicant is required to evaluate in their preliminary application. Okay. So now we're going to move into the public comment portion of tonight. And with that, the order in which we're going to call out commenters are commenters in the room. And specifically, I guess we'll start with those that have turned in their comment cards to Nancy, or can turn in your comment cards to Nancy. Then we'll move to people viewing this on the webinar. And lastly, we'll end with those on the phone. And I think that's where we're at.
All right, well, our first commenter is Wendell Baskins. So if you'll go ahead and come up to the table and we'll turn on your mic.
My name is Wendell Baskins, and my address is 1315 Lafayette, Oregon City, Oregon, 97045. And I'm here speaking for the Northwest chapter of the Oregon California Trails Association. I've been recently elected president and have chosen to be back more involved in the EFSC meetings. I did them 20 years ago. A general comment as far as the project and general comments from our members when we are together. Doesn't necessarily affect the trails, but it's a general comment is that there's a concern expressed by Eastern Oregon members about the amount of what they're calling arable farmland that's going out of production for the solar farms. And that is the comment that I'll make just to represent, but just for what it's worth. I found that it's very interesting that in all of the agencies you contacted, there is one that was not mentioned, and that's SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office. In proximity to your project, we do not believe it runs through it, but in proximity to your project is the cutoff to the Barlow Road. The cutoff to the Barlow Road is one of the 16 historic trails as designated by the state legislature back in 95, 96. And it was the purvey at that time of the Oregon Historic Trails Advisory Committee or Council. So we do not, in looking at the most accurate maps we have, and I'll present them over here so that you have, we also find that the cutoff to the Barlow Road, which runs roughly from the ridge above the John Day River crossing at McDonald's across the state to Tye Valley, is not shown on any EFSC maps. And our preservation officer, Dave Welch, has been attempting to work with the committee to get those put on so they could be seen by everyone. And so it's not, I don't believe it's enough to raise objection, but it is a concern that we would like to see, especially the 16 historical. In looking at the best data we have, and it's on the map that I'll present here, we do not believe that your project will impact the cutoff to the Barlow. We do believe if there is any impact, it will be a visual impact due to the turbine. but we've dealt with that across various areas of the state, and we just mentioned that as a concern. I think I've pretty well covered everything that we have. I introduced myself. The chairman of the Preservation Committee is a person by the name of Dave Welch, an XS. You may have heard with him before. He is also the preservation officer for the national organization, Oregon California Trails Association. And we spent this morning discussing your project, and the comments I brought to you are the ones that we noticed and we agreed upon at that time. And if there's, I know my limited time, but if there's any questions, I'll gladly answer.
No, make sure I'm working this right. I don't have any specific questions, but
Thank you. And on the information I'm turning in, I've listed, I'm so new that I haven't got business cards yet. But I have listed my telephone number and email at the bottom of the information. I'm on the EFSC mailing list. Anything comes up, please give me a call. We find if there's any problem, don't see any, but if there's any concerns, it's easier to solve them now than wait till we get down the line.
Agreed.
Okay? Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our next commenter is Colin Smith.
Hi there. I'm Colin Smith. I live at 404 Northwest 2nd Street here in Grass Valley. I support anything that can bring local employment for the community. I want to work more locally, and I'm here with my son, who might also want to work at a renewable plant in the future. But I do have concerns with an energy facility because as a local renewable technician over the last 17 years, I've seen many transformers, batteries, and converters fail catastrophically, often sparking fires that can escape their enclosures. This is largely wheat country. We sometimes have fires from time to time on our own. Knowing that 25,000 acres is huge, and your permanent staff will likely only have a handful of people, I'm concerned that the site may not be able to rapidly respond to fires. I'm also concerned that our local farmers, who tend to hustle to fires, being the first to respond on site, may not have time to attend trainings in person due to the nature of farming. I'd like to see online trainings available, at least as it relates to where to fight and where to not fight fires, because depending on the length of the panel strings and if combiners are still linked and or requiring manual disconnects, well, we could have injured farmers and or firefighters if they spray the panels or surroundings with water due to the panels being energized as long as the sun shines, and batteries can extend those concerns into the night.
And Mr. Smith, just in response to your comments, thank you very much for commenting. There is a wildfire prevention and risk mitigation standard that we do review, and it'll be part of the application for this facility. And as part of that standard, the applicant has to provide a wildfire mitigation plan for construction and operation. And so that's something that could be reviewed and commented on as well. Yeah.
If I could just add to that too. I know I mentioned in-person trainings with the consultant company that we're engaging. We're also offering webinars on that. And so heard, and as soon as we get, better plans together with Chief Norris and the other chiefs, we'll absolutely make sure that gets offered to everyone.
All right, our next commenter is Alan von Borstadt.
I was told I had to sign up even to ask a question, so. I'm Alan von Borstadt. I live at out of town here, Grass Valley. I just wanted to ask a few questions. I've been on your website and it sucks. I cannot download your maps. I can't get your information to come down, and I don't think it's just my computer, because I can work with FSA, NRCS, all those guys. I'm having real difficulty getting the information to even write a comment about. This is the most information I've got tonight. I do want to give you comment, but I'm going to give it in writing after this meeting because I wanted to absorb this meeting. but I'm not able to look at the maps online, and I'm not able to even download them with a PDF. And I've tried several nights in a row here to do it. I just get a spinning wheel on my computer. And we can talk after the meeting a little bit and see what's going on, but, and then to you guys,
Sorry, can I quickly respond to that? Hey, where's Chris? Chris, can you set up the computer? We actually haven't turned that thing on. So it would be good to turn that on. That's why we brought it, is so that we can actually open up the project webpage. We can show people. Maybe we'll experience the same thing, but we'll try to do that as well and see if we can at least show you the webpage, see if we can download anything here. So either after the meeting or even after your comment, we can kind of go back there and take a look at it and see if we can answer some of your questions.
yeah. And then to you guys, this slideshow that you gave tonight, is that available to us online somewhere? Is it in these documents I picked up tonight?
That might be a question for these guys, but I know that they're posting it online after this.
Yeah, it will be available in the next day or two, I would imagine, as well as the recording of tonight.
So it's not on there yet, but it will be.
I'm not confident it's on there or not. I haven't looked.
And you gave me a January 23rd deadline. I'd like to review that with a few days.
Sure. Yeah. This presentation I just confirmed is not online yet, but it will be posted.
Okay. And then just like the 25,000 acres, I've looked at other projects. We can talk about the bake oven project. And I'm going to shoot from the hip here a little bit. I think that whole project is about 10,000 acres, and there's about 5,000 of that that's going to be covered with solar panels. Do you have any idea what percent of yours is going to be panels? I know you're talking about 100, maybe up to 100 turbines.
Yep.
What percent of the actual acres is going to be covered with panels? Do you know?
Yeah. So I think, like I said, we're at a 1,400 megawatt injection capacity. So that's how much we need to put onto the grid. At the overbuild, there's a bit of a line loss situation that we need to account for. So I think the solar arrays will be about 1,800 megawatts. And if you apply a 8 acre per megawatt scale, that puts us somewhere in I believe it's 14,000 acres. And just want to reiterate that will not be kind of a complete blanket monolithic array in one location, but it'll be almost individual projects broken out throughout the project area.
Well, and I saw on your website, one of the things you guys brag about, but I haven't seen it in anything concrete, was the fact that you break your projects up so that you don't have a complete blanket. How does that deal with wildlife movement through these projects? Because you guys are, if you fence these off, you're creating a huge buffer strip.
Yeah, that's right, and that's understood. And so, as Vince indicated, the intent is that the project will not be a single monolithic array, but it'll be broken down into a number of discrete array areas. So, based on all the studies that have been done, you know this terrain probably a heck of a lot better than I do, but there's obviously drainages out there. There's some steeper slopes. And so there's a number of areas that have been taken off the table, if you will, for development for solar. And we're currently working through that design. So essentially, based on the setbacks that are required for wind turbines, they are to some extent driving the layout. So we're focusing on where turbines will be located. And then modules will not be located under turbines. So the array areas will be, distinct and separate from the turbine strings. So we're working through that in real time, and all of that information will be included in the project application. It's just literally happening in real time right now.
And that project application, we'll be able to comment on that as well.
Absolutely.
If I read your deal right.
That's
But you're, if I understand that right, even though it'll be small arrays, there will probably be 14,000 acres that will be fenced off.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, but the intent, again, like we're not going to be putting arrays or fences in or across sensitive areas. And I understand that generally that's the areas in which the wildlife tend to migrate and move through. So drainage corridors where water is available, elk and bighorn sheep and otherwise are typically working through those natural drainage areas.
Well,
And those areas won't.
they grazed those 14,000 acres too, so they're not going to have that anymore. They'll have some more of my crop to eat, but if you understand what I'm saying, you're excluding them off of that. You're gonna, no matter what you do, you're going to affect the wildlife there. There's no question about it.
And
We're not just talking about transitioning. We're talking about they've used that ground.
in the Oregon Department of Energy or Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife they are an active reviewing agency and will also look at exhibits P and Q, which are fish and wildlife habitat and threatened and endangered species, amongst other exhibits in the application, and will be seeking comments from them.
I'm certainly not here to suggest that this project is not going to have any impact. What I am here to suggest is that we're doing everything we can to minimize and mitigate those impacts.
I understand that. And this will be in my comments, but one thing, as long as I'm up here and on the mic, one of my major concerns is that I'm fourth generation. My son's here in the audience. He's fifth generation on these farms. We've had to abide by exclusive farm use regulations forever. And just to give you one example, I've got wolves eating my cows up in the Blue Mountains, and I can't do a damn thing about it. I get to watch it. The state is allowing you guys to come in here and basically not pay any attention to those rules. So you're able to come in and develop this property, stuff that we've been restricted from doing. You're moving into an exclusive ag use community. You're putting in billion-dollar projects. I still want to farm around here, but I'm extremely nervous of the risk of my farming operation and the liability to you guys. And I've requested from other agencies, I've requested it from our county court, I've gotten nowhere with those guys. I really think that when you guys come into a community like that, you need to hold ag operations harmless from damage to your property. And I'm not talking about somebody that goes out and intentionally starts a fire. You commented that you was here, fire start. We saw a fire start in the Dalles. Within hours, it was at Grass Valley. That's how fast it travels. And I really don't think you ought to be allowed to come into a community, totally change the land use of that community. And we're not just talking about part of the community. We're talking river to river, that we've abided by that. It is an ag community, and that you're allowed to come in and do that and not hold our traditions and our farming harmless from damage to your multi-billion-dollar project. I can't afford insurance to cover that. There's no way. I can afford insurance to cover my neighbor's field if it catches on fire, because we'll go put it out before it turns into a big damn wreck. Yours, I'm not too sure about that. And it's a real concern to me that has not been addressed. I brought this up during the Buckley deal. Have never got a response out of you guys. Not one response, nothing about how you're going to mitigate that for us. And so I kind of feel like these are dog and pony shows that you really don't care what we're saying. And that is a deep concern of mine, that you're coming in and changing this community and not recognizing or protecting the history and the culture of this community. And that goes beyond the wildlife. That's more important to me. So, and I will put this in writing and we'll get it to one of you guys. Thanks.
All right, well, that's all the written comment forms that I have. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to make a comment or ask questions? All right, well, we're going to go ahead and open it up to the people on the webinar. Just to remind everybody who is online how you would raise your hand. So at the bottom of the webinar, there is a participant window. You're going to click on that and it will show you a hand icon. Go ahead and click on that hand and that will raise your hand to make a comment. When you're finished commenting, you can go ahead and lower your hand by clicking on it again. If you are on the phone, you're going to press *3 on your keypad to raise your hand, and then again, you will press it *3 again to lower your hand. All right, at this time, I do not see any hands raised. We'll go ahead and keep that line open for just a few minutes.
For a second. Well, while we wait to see if there's any more comments, I wanted to go to the next slide. And this is a slide that has helpful links for resources, Department of Energy, including a link to the public guide, as well as a more detailed breakdown of our siting standards. There's also a link to the ERISA tool, which is a GIS-based facilities map. And then the last hyperlink on this slide is a link to the public comment portal. And if you have more comments that you'd like to provide us during this process at the NOI stage, you can submit them via the portal, or you can email them to Kate Sloan, and her email address and contact information will be posted when this presentation is posted, and that'll be tomorrow, I believe. So.
All right, I do have one hand raised, and it is for the Times Journal. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic. Oh,
Hi, can you hear me?
did you wish to? Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Well, thank you. My question is for the Brookfield representatives. I'm curious, I'm sure you can't comment directly on this project, but in general, I'm wondering if you all have discussions with data center companies prior to even doing construction for some of these projects. I know that all of the renewable energy projects in the north end of Gillum County have now been exclusive rights have been bought for Amazon Web Services. So just curious if some of your planning is done with some of those folks.
I can take that. This is Berker. So yeah, Brookfield, we are, always in discussions with kind of large technology kind of companies for this particular project or for the other projects that we have kind of under development in kind of Oregon. We're not in discussions with any specific kind of data centers, if that's the question. Okay, can you hear me well? Yeah. Sorry, did that answer come through, or would you like me to? So I was saying, we are always in discussions, being a company of our size, obviously we are always in discussions with large technology companies who are developing data centers. We do from time to time enter into contracts to sell them kind of power and energy. All of this information is publicly available. For this particular project, the Speedway project, or some of the other projects that we have currently under development in Oregon, we are not in direct discussions with any data centers or any technology companies at this stage, given that the projects are in a relatively early stage. They still need to be advanced and complete their permitting for us to enter into those commercial conversations.
Thank you. And I guess just to follow up for the siting folks, is there anything done in the permitting process that would restrict the permitting from being exclusive use for data centers? So for example, should this project go through, is there any mechanism that you all have that says that this is specifically safe for ratepayers? We've been doing a lot of reporting on the energy crunch that's going on in the West, and there's towns like Rufus and Arlington that have regular power outages, while these data centers, especially in Umatilla and Morrow County, are using a tremendous amount of electricity.
So I think, sorry, I'm got a little bit of cold, so hopefully everybody can understand me. You were breaking up a little bit, so I didn't entirely hear what your questions were, other than related to, facilities under council jurisdiction, providing power to data centers. And really all I can say is that's not part of our process. We have no requirement that applicants tell us where they're going to provide their power. So that's not anything that we look at. That's not anything we review. It's not part of our authority. And we often don't know what that ultimate outcome. And honestly, a lot of the facilities, as they go through our process, haven't entered a power purchase agreement with the developer through our process yet. That comes typically or sometimes later on. So we just don't have that information.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
All right, we're going to do last call for any hands raised or any comments in the room. Seeing none.
Okay, great. Well, I think that concludes our formal presentation tonight. And but I did want to just say that we do have the screen in the back with the maps loaded up. Should you like to take a better look at the facility, we also have the project page loaded up back there, and we'll stick around until. We'll stick around to answer more questions should you guys have any. So thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We really appreciate your time tonight.